Hey, what happened, man? Hey! 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 Sniper! Sniper! Sniper 6! Come on, man. Hold on. Faster! Faster!
There is a lot of fear, I think, in some organizations that sharing lessons means sharing mistakes and that they could be blamed for that. And there is sometimes confusion between what's going on with lessons learned and what's going on with individual performance evaluations and evaluations of headquarters. And so if people don't have a mindset of sharing their experience, but also a mindset of wishing to learn from other people's experience, then the lessons learned capability is going to fail no matter what you put in place.
The NATO Lessons Learned capability is comprised of mindset, leadership, process, training, structure, and tools. And on top of that, we have information sharing. When we look at the NATO Lessons Learned capability as a whole, we're looking at how we best disseminate essential information throughout NATO.
So we have to update our standing operating procedures. Next time we move to a safe place and then we are going to check it. Okay? Any questions?
Sir, and what about the rest of NATO?
Yeah, good point. We better upload it to the Lessons Learned portal as an observation. Good point.
Everything starts with an observation. We can have observations coming from two different sources, either from an originator, so a NATO member that actually observes something that he thinks it's important to either keep the procedure or to have a different procedure to make it better. Or the other source is an extraction from a report or a lesson identified list that actually needs to be uploaded to the NATO Lesson Learned portal. At this point, in the NATO Lesson Learned portal, we have an observation which the status will be observation submitted.
Observations that people see when they are deployed, or best practices that we have identified throughout the operations or the exercises. That's the type of information that we want to share with the people, so that's what we would call lessons learned information.
The originator and the NATO Lesson Learned portal local manager, they will have to work together. Why? They have to analyze the observation and they have to turn that observation into a lesson identified. To do that, they need to fill in 3 other fields in the NATO Lesson Learned portal observation template, which are discussion, conclusion, and recommendation. Once the recommendation is finished, we then have a full lesson identified. The originating authority needs to make a decision whether to note, approve, or reject. Items that are approved by the originating authority then move their status from lessons identified to lessons identified to remedial action. And the action body starts by developing a plan on how to pursue the remedial action that was recommended and accepted. Both the tasking authority and the action body need to understand that the work that has been done actually solves the issue. If the validation that was done by the action body and the tasking authority is approved, then it's clear that we have either a lesson learned or a best practice.
Everybody is responsible for lessons learned across NATO, but of course that has to come from the top. It has to come from our senior leaders, right down through everyone in NATO, down to the lowest level.
The lessons learned training is for everybody in NATO, whether it's a NATO command structure, NATO force structure, non-NATO nations, NATO nations, partner nations, whoever wants to work with NATO, this training is for them.
So the lessons learned structure is basically all of the lessons learned staff officers, all of the lessons learned points of contact, basically everybody who does lessons learned in NATO, all put together into one network. Now that network sits inside the NATO command structure and the NATO force structure, with the JALLC sat in the middle of the network, where it manages all of the information that's spread out throughout the network through the NATO Lessons Learned portal.
NATO Lessons Learned portal is a main tool which drive NATO Lessons Learned capability. On the portal, we are storing, we are sharing, we are distributing, and also we are archiving all the lessons, observation, best practices, and lessons identified in the NATO.
There is no lesson learned capability, there is no lesson learned process if the information and the experience and expertise is not shared in the portal.
The strong message about lessons learned is how to save lives.
Whoa, what happened? I think we have a flat tire. Stop, man. Let's go. Move, move, move. Let's go to a safe place. Then we'll check.
Lessons learned aren't just important, they're vital. They're vital to NATO because they can save time, they can save money, and they can save people.